Welcome to the video quarterly Bloom overview with Isaiah and Todd. So this is the cover of the client packet for the quarterly session. This will be very similar from quarter to quarter throughout the whole journey. So this is the session that you'll do the most as a coach. It's also the session you're going to get good at first because of the amount of repetitions you're going to have. Average client sticks with you for 2.5 to 3 years. You can do the math, but with the average client, you're going to do this agenda, this conversation, or this client packet 10 to 12 times over a 2.5 to 3 year journey. So first thing you do is that you're going to be logged in to their Bloom Growth account before you get this day started. Remember to be fully prepared. You're going to have watched this video. You're going to have looked through all the material. You're going to have done all the prep emails. You're going to have gone through that checklist. You're going to make sure all participants have their stuff. You're going to have had a short check-in call with your contact on the leadership team. Sometimes it's the visionary, sometimes it's the second in command, but and usually those calls are 20, 25 minutes for me. It's half of it shooting the shit and getting caught up personally and like what were the big wins and what's going on. Mostly what you want out of that call is, I usually do it within 7 days of the session. It's often early in the morning, so it doesn't get in the way of another session day. So if I have a session that starts at 9, it is not unusual for me to have a check-in call with another client from 8 to 8:25 that same day. But you've had a check-in call with this client. The number one thing that you want to make sure that you leave that check-in call with is there anything that I need to know as a coach before we're in the room together with the team? Like, is there any kind of elephant in the room or secret or something that I need to know to show up as an effective coach? And my experience with this is in the early part of the journey with a leadership team, say the first year, there sometimes is stuff, and it's like little leadership team secrets and this stuff is going on here. And I don't know if you know, but you should know this leadership team member got in a big fight at last week's Bloom Weekly with this other leadership team member. And I don't think they've really resolved it yet. It's like stuff like that. It's like, oh, well, this person on the leadership team is on a PIP right now, but the rest of the team doesn't know. Or a recent example for me is we're really close to completing an acquisition, but I'm not allowed to talk to the leadership team yet about it. But just so you know, some of the quarterly priorities I take are going to be, I'm not going to take many quarterly priorities because I'm going to have to close this acquisition this quarter, and I'm not going to be telling the team about it until the acquisition's complete. So don't push me to take a bunch of other quarterly priorities because I have this kind of secret project going on behind the scenes, and I'll share with the team as soon as I'm allowed to. Those are the kinds of things that come up in the first year of the journey that you want insight into as the coach. And you're getting that all in that 25-minute phone call. I think mostly I'm shooting the shit with my friend who is now my client for most of that call. And towards the end of the call, I'm like, okay, is there anything I need to know before we're in the room next week, whether it's virtual or in person? Anything I need to know to be fully prepared. And what happens after the first 6 to 12 months of doing this, where there often is small stuff, is that almost every quarter there's nothing. So these check-in calls are like insurance and connecting with the client, but there's no information that you gather during the check-in call that makes any difference in the way that you facilitate the session. That's usually how it goes. And I think the reason is as part of this journey is that the team is getting to be right people, right seats on the leadership team, and they're getting more transparent and open than they've ever been about things. And there's just not secrets between myself as the coach and the owner of the business or whoever I'm having the call with. Because the secrets are going away as part of what we do as coaches with these teams. And so it's just in the beginning part of the journey that you're kind of navigating some of these things. Sometimes I have a client right now who's saying like, hey, you and I both know that this person probably isn't going to be on our leadership team 6 or 9 months from now. But when we're doing the org chart, we're not saying that out loud. Right now, this person is going to be on the team forever based on our org chart conversation. We have other things to work on together as a team, but this is my client telling me, they'll say, Todd, but you and I both know this person isn't going to be on the team in 6 to 9 months, but we're not going to bring that up tomorrow. We're going to work on the other issues around the org chart. And that's the kind of information that you do glean early in the journey on that check-in call. Okay, so now you've had the check-in call and now it's the day of the session. I find that my morning routine is really important so that I am not having conflict in my life the night before. I'm not arguing with my wife or kids about stuff, that I'm orchestrating my life, often not drinking the day before, if that impacts your sleep, like drinking would impact my sleep. And so it's planning my psychological and physical health such that I can be the best I can be for my client. I'm paying attention to what I'm eating that day, the exercise I'm getting, what time I'm going to bed, my sleep environment. If you have a young crying child at home, this is exactly the night that I would ask if I could sleep in the guest room so that you get the best sleep possible. Whatever it is for you to take care of yourself psychologically and physically to be your best self. Maybe that includes waking up and doing a morning routine, that includes working out. Whatever it is for you, know your best self and show up. This usually means show up an hour early for the session, like you've got everything handled. You're logged into their Bloom Growth account. You've got your notes from the past you've reviewed, because remember the previous session always wraps up with, what could we do better next time? And so you read through those and you get really present. You probably glanced at those what could we do better next time notes before the check-in call also. So all of this is just for you to show up as your most powerful, centered self. If you have other things on your plate, like to-dos or unreplied to email or incomplete things in communication where you're out of integrity, things that could weigh on you psychologically, sometimes unconsciously, please be cleaning all of that up before you get to this day. It's really important. I show up for these sessions, and I think one of the things that my clients pay me money for and use me and refer me because is that I'm all in on their day. I do not think about myself. Oh, I don't check my phone. I don't check my messages. I don't check my email or text throughout a client day. It is all about them. So you have to have every single thing in your life in integrity and handled with your physical and your psychological well-being the best you know how. And then you get busy about an hour before the session starts. If it's in person, you will have leadership team members show up as early as a half hour before because they don't know what traffic's going to be like. So just know you being ready an hour before really only gives you 30 minutes of buffer if something's not working. If your technology is having a hard time connecting to the screen in the room, or if you can't get the printer working for something you wanted to print for the day, or you've lost your charger or an adapter or things like this. These are all things that ideally will be completely handled when you're there an hour before. But if not, you have 30 minutes of buffer before the first leadership team member shows up so that you can be completely perfect. If you are in person, I also like to have the table set like you're planning a great dinner party. Like everything is in its place. The water glasses, the coffee mugs, the coasters, your branded ink pen that says Bloom Growth on it, or the printouts if you're using printouts or client packets. Everything is set up like a dinner party about ready to happen. Okay? So this is all prep. It's not exclusive to this quarterly. Most of these things I'm saying apply to every time you're doing a session. If you're doing it virtually, it's a little simpler. You don't have the physical space to take care of, but make sure if you're using multiple screens and that if you've got a fancier video camera that you use or some lighting in your own place, or that it's quiet enough that you've got agreement from your coworkers or your family, if you're doing this at home or at an office, that you can have complete privacy that day, no distractions, make sure they know that you're in a session and that they treat that kind of sacred. So this is me rambling about setup. Isaiah, what do you have things that you want to add about, what's going through your head the night before or the check-in call? Is there something I've missed?
Just your gear bag, markers, cables, all that kind of stuff. Make sure you have your gear bag all set so that you have everything that you need and don't have to, oh, I need a cable. Do you guys have a cable? Or none of that is going on. You're ready to go. Otherwise, Todd, you teed it up beautifully.
Todd,
A full
also,
set, a full, oh, go ahead, Sheila.
Todd, also the HVAC is working perfectly. Comfortable seating, natural lighting, all that is also super important.
Super important for their physical space, assuming you're in person. Yes, thanks, Sheila. And then to what Isaiah said, have a full set of dry erase markers with you, refills if you're using the ones we gave you during your onboarding. So a one refill for each color, and have a set of 4 flip chart pads of paper meant for writing on paper. You'll get really good at telling them apart, but have a full set of both. This is part of having your bag ready as a facilitator, trainer, and coach. All right, so let's move on. This is the cover sheet of the quarterly. So the first thing that we do as part of this, so also I really take a lot of pride in starting exactly on time. So you greet people when they come in the room or when they come on the Zoom. We're having fun, we're laughing and joking. I'm being really authentic about what's going on for me that morning, and this and that, and this and up and down, and what's going on for you. And then as soon as they enter the room or the Zoom, I'm engaging them about them. We're laughing and joking. It's mostly personal stuff we're kicking around. We don't start talking about like, what'd you get done last quarter or anything like that. And as each new person enters the physical space or the Zoom, I'm greeting them. We're warming up the conversation. If we're in person, I'm hugging people with workplace appropriate hugs. And of course, respectfully looking out for everybody's personal space. If somebody is not a hugger, once in a while, you'll get somebody who doesn't want to. And I want to be really conscious and aware of this kind of stuff. When it comes time for the meeting to start, I start looking at the clock at like 7 minutes and then 4 minutes and then 3 and then 2. And my goal is to start the meeting exactly as the clock ticks from 8:59 to 9 o'clock. And I point it out to the team because I want them to start their Bloom weekly exactly on time and end it a few minutes early each week. And I feel like me setting the example during these offsites is key. So I say it out loud. I see the clock tick to 9 and I'm like, all right, it's exactly 9 o'clock. You guys all ready? Let's go ahead and kick this off. Okay. And then this is the Bloom packet.
Yeah, and what I do in addition to that, Todd, that I learned from you also is as we're approaching the time, 10 minutes to 9, we'll say things like, okay, you guys, in 10 minutes, we're going to get started. Make sure you go refill your coffee, use the restroom, get water, because we're going to start right at 9 o'clock.
I do say that. Thank you for reminding me what I say. Yep. And you might say it again at 5 minutes, some other version of it. Especially if somebody was on a phone call when you said it at 10 minutes and you're pretty clear they didn't hear you or they were deep in their email or something. You also have to decide during that first, when they get there, the role of tech in the room. And you may want people to be getting their laptop set up, make sure they're fully charged, that they're on the Wi-Fi. And then you decide if you want them to be closed during the check-in in the early part of the day, but you'll certainly want them open during the quarterly priority setting. So here's the client packet. So you bust it open, and up in the upper left corner is the Bloom journey, which now they have seen a bunch of times. But as an adult learner, they get grounded in this journey, and it gives them a sense of accomplishment and kind of a you are here. So it continues to make sense psychologically that you point out, oh, we're in this 5-day-a-year rotation. We're in a regular quarterly today. Next time we're together is going to be our 2-day annual. Also, what you're doing subtly is you're reselling them on sticking with the journey. So by me saying, oh, and next time together is the 2-day annual, is me saying, don't try to make our 2-day annual 1-day annual, because sometimes they will. I am constantly selling the 5-day-a-year rotation, keeps us fully aligned. It's the leanest version of keeping all the energy in your organization aligned. You would never want to miss one of these 5 days. Most organizations and other systems take double this amount of days to stay fully aligned, but because this is so proven now over years, we've got it down to the leanest version, and that is 5 days. So we go through the journey, depending on where they're at in their annual cycle. You might have them circle which quarterly we're at, just to get them engaged using their pen or pencil. Of course, if you're virtual, you're not going to have them doing this. You may have asked them to print this out, though, if they are virtual, in which case you would be coaching them to be engaged like that. Next thing we're doing is we're going to go through the agenda. So the first thing on the agenda is the Bloom journey. You can say, well, we already did that. That's right above here. And now the agenda, which we're doing right now. As soon as I run through the agenda, we'll talk about the outcomes for today. First thing we're going to do is, we're done with this first part of the agenda, is we're going to review the previous quarter. And this is about putting the past in the past. Rest assured, it is not my style as your coach to be shaming or making you wrong. We're just going to get with the reality of it, and we're going to put the past in the past in a really concise way. We're going to extract obstacles and opportunities as we review the past, and then we'll be on to working on the future, the present and the future, the whole rest of the day. So after we review the previous quarter, we'll do the check-in, which I'm confident you all prepared, because I've been talking about it for the 30 minutes before. As they trickle in, I'm working it into my small talk. You get your check-in sheet complete, and then the most likely people to not have it complete are the visionary and the sales leader. And there's something about these personalities that will be the most likely people to not have it complete. And then you gently nudge them. I don't make them wrong for not having it complete. I just say, oh, if you could be working on that right now, that would be great. We still have 20 minutes. Please just write short answers on that. And so you've nudged, and the reminders have gone out via email, and you've made it super easy for them to do this. And they'll still be, at least half of my sessions have one leadership team member that has not filled this thing out yet. What's the percentage for you, Isaiah? How many leadership team members have not filled the damn thing out by the time you get to the session day?
Man, client to client, it varies, but like 25% is normally what I've seen so far.
25% of the leaders, even though they've got these emails and they know from the past, still don't have the thing filled out.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is it consistent with what I'm saying? Is it typically the visionary or the sales leader? Are these personalities for you too?
Those personality types, yeah. One's the executive chef, and which is kind of like a sales kind of guy. But yeah.
Renegade guy. Yeah. It's the non-rule followers. So you're coaching and nudging them in that first 30 minutes to get that done. But so we review the previous quarter, then we're going to do the check-in sheet. We're going to add a lot of obstacles and opportunities to the O&O list during that check-in. And we're really going to get aligned about all the good and the bad stuff. And I'd love that part of our day. Resetting the quarterly priorities and then clean up the O&O list has so much satisfaction. This is one big prioritization conversation. And we have a couple hours budgeted for it today. On to team health. Depending on which quarter you're in, this will be between an hour and 2.5 hours. And remember, as coaches, right now we're doing some bits and pieces team health work, but Bloom, and with everybody's help that's watching this video, is working on an inspiring, life-changing, best in the world team health journey. And I'm super excited about where our team health is going to be. And it's going to be one of the things that once you're taught to facilitate this, your clients are just going to feel like you're bringing magic into their lives. So that team health journey will be an hour to 2.5 hours. And you would say specifically, once our team health journey is complete, or with your bits and pieces work of team health that you're going to do for this session, you'll say specifically what it is. And then the tools, tune, and training on the tools. And this is what parts of the Bloom growth system are not working the best for you, or do we need to introduce? Especially in the first year of doing this, every quarter you're together, you're going to be introducing another tool, and you're going to ask them when they reset their quarterly priorities to leave a little room, because you're like, somebody is going to take a quarterly priority about process this quarter. Or you know that somebody is going to take a quarterly priority around sales and marketing this quarter. Or somebody's going to take a finance related quarterly priority. So this is where you're saying what we're going to be introducing if you are introducing a new tool. And you're saying, okay, so Sam, when you're the finance leader, when we're setting quarterly priorities, let's just be sure that you reserve some capacity, because I'm going to introduce this tool, and then we're going to decide together what the quarterly priority it is, or how you're going to take on moving this tool into the business. Okay, so you're getting their head in the game around this, right? And if you know what the team health thing is, which almost every quarter you would know, you're also going to be teeing that up a little bit and tell them how exciting that's going to be. And you're going to say, for half of you, this is going to be your favorite part of it. And then we're going to introduce this tool, and we're going to do that. Once the tools are all introduced in the first 12 months, what you do during the tools, the tune-up and the training on them, is you're listening during the check-in. Remember, there's one question that asks what's not working around the Bloom growth system. And you capture what's not working from that check-in, and that's what becomes that third from the bottom agenda item. And then after we're done with that, we go on to the O&O, and this is a nice cleaned up list. Almost always this list is now down to between 7 and 27 items after you've reset quarterly priorities and you cleaned it up, right here. So now it's down to 7 to 27 items, and you want to watch them do their D&D, the discuss and decide. So you're going to say, like a church mouse, you remember back after day 90 when I observed your Bloom Weekly? That's the same thing I'm going to do now. I would like you guys to go ahead and pick 3 and then go through the process you normally go through. If it's their first or second quarterly with you, I often give a little update on the training, how you want to slow down a little bit, get to the root cause, identify the outcome that you're looking for from this obstacle or opportunity. There's typically 3 outcomes, right? You're either looking for a decision, or you're going to share information, or you're going to gather information. Gathering information is a little bit like a brainstorm. So I give them a little tune-up, little reminders on the best practices if it's your first or second quarterly with them after day 90. But once you're 9 months into this journey, I often don't tune them up. I don't tell them how to do O&O or the not O&O and the D&D on the O&Os. It all works out to do and do if you're D&D or you're O&O. But I usually encourage them to do the people issues that are on the list first. So there'll be people issues that are left over on the list that did not get taken as quarterly priorities. And these are the things that teams avoid and procrastinate and dread talking about. And with me in the room as their coach, and this simple encouragement to pick their people issues first. And then my clients always say at the end of the day, they're like, I'm so glad we did the people things. I'm so glad we did the people things with you here. Mm-hmm. And I'm not participating in the O&O. I am not facilitating it. I am observing it and giving feedback. Sometimes I give feedback after every 1, sometimes after every 3, but we'll get to that later. So that's the O&Oing. And you can say, because what's really typical is we're going to go through 3 to 9. of your biggest obstacles or biggest opportunities that don't get taken as quarterly priorities, we will discuss and decide on your 3 to 9 most important obstacles or opportunities that do not become quarterly priorities. So we're going to take care of most things by making them a quarterly priority. And then the top 3 to 9 things that did not are going to get handled here at the end of the day. Then we're going to wrap up, say what we did great, say what we could do better next quarter. You say nice things to each other and fly out of here. And this day is going to go so fast. And it's just my favorite way to spend a day. It is a huge prioritization and communication day. So, you guys ready? All right, great. So as you're starting the day, first thing we're going to do is we're going to go through the outcome. So if you go to your check-in sheet and see the very first answer at the top, I can flip to it here on this, this electronic, this PDF of the client packet. But you see right at the top of the check-in sheet where it says, what is your most important outcome for today's session? What did you guys write down there? And then I usually just start with the person to my left. And I say, Sam, if you don't mind going first. Just the top thing, I want to make sure. And I often say things a little sarcastically about myself. I say, this is a facilitator trick. I'm going through the agenda and where we're at in the journey. And I'm hoping we're all on the same page about what we're doing today. That this is where I double check it and make sure that the most important outcomes that you all want are aligned with what we've just gone over. I want to know it here at the beginning of the day. Please don't spring this on me at 3 p.m. because we can do something about it now. It's only 9:07. So, and we go around and Sam says what his is, and then the next person says what theirs is, and they weren't listening. And so they automatically start sharing their other stuff. And I'm like, whoa, whoa, whoa. So as a coach, you can't be daydreaming. The whole team will notice if you don't catch it when somebody goes to the next item. So you got to be hyper listening. And you can be writing them down if you want, if that helps you keep engaged. You're making gentle eye contact. You're shifting your body language towards the person that's sharing. And then when they look at you more than the rest of the team, like they're reporting this to you, make sure with the first or second person, one of these people will be staring at you while they share their expectations for the day, and you must redirect their gaze. And I just say gently, oh, please share with the whole room. And I do this sweeping motion with my hand. You see that on my video? It's a bigger thing if I'm in person, though. It's my arm. Please share with the whole room. And make eye contact with share your great eye contact with everybody equally, or some phrase like that. Often during the check-in, you will have to say that reminder twice because somebody else at some other point of the check-in will be looking at you mostly. And this is not them checking in for you. This is them checking in with each other. It's really important that you are not letting them stare at you. Okay? So just keep in mind during the check-in, this agenda item, the third thing down here, you are going to probably give that reminder twice, probably at least once when you go around and do the outcomes like you're doing right now, and probably once or twice during check-in that you're going to have to get their eye contact redirected and shared with the whole team. Oh, generously share that with the whole team. If it's a woman, I would never say this, but if it's a man, I always say, like, you have such beautiful eyes. Can you just share that eye contact with everybody? It's a little too creepy if it's a woman, so I don't say that. If you're a woman, it probably is safe for you to say it to a woman and not to a guy. So you do what you do in terms of your personality as a coach. Okay, and then after everybody goes around and shares the outcome, then you have them come back to the client packet and you say, like, check that box. Gives, there's at least like 2 people in the room that love checking these boxes and gives a sense of progress. Okay. Anything that you want to add, Isaiah, before I move on to review the previous quarter?
That was great, Todd. I do the same thing. Okay. Yep. Talk to the team, you guys. Remember to talk to each other, not to me. Let's communicate with each other today. All that kind of stuff.
Yep. And 2 times during the check-in is about the amount of times you need to say it every session.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. So a review of the previous quarter, you can see it on the right-hand side. Let me move my thumbnails a little bit out of the way so you can see it completely. But it is the previous quarter. It is the quarterly priorities. It is your finance, which is the KPIs, and your culture. And you can see in the small print here, capture as many opportunities and obstacles as you can and add them to the O&O list. Keep in mind that these next two agenda items, the reviewing the previous quarter and the check-in, are all about building the largest, most robust, detail-oriented O&O list you can. So please err on the side of capturing every little thing. And you as the coach are either typing these into the Bloom Growth software if you're having a virtual session, or you're writing them on a whiteboard or a flip chart if you're in person. There is a slight hybrid choice, and that is if you are in person and have easy access to a printer, you could be typing them into the Bloom software, and then on the break between the check-in and setting of the quarterly priorities, you would export the quarterly printout PDF with the updated O&O list that you've built all morning. And you could send a copy to the printer for everybody, but that's only if you know for sure that you have access to a reliable printer that has toner in it. And so that's kind of your hybrid. Mostly you add them to the software if you're virtual, and you write them on a board if you're in person. Isaiah?
Well, thank you for that, Todd. And the thing that works really well for me, because my handwriting isn't that good on a whiteboard or a flip chart, and I can type a lot faster than I can handwrite. So I do use the software in person as well, as long as there's a big monitor or projector where people can see the screen. So I do that also. And then during the quarterly priority setting time, everybody logs into the app on their phone or in their software to review all of them. So I do it in the software as well, in person.
In person, yep. And I have seen your handwriting. I understand.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then it's mostly laptops, is my experience. When it comes to quarterly priority setting, everybody's brought a laptop with, and they're entering their new quarterly priorities themselves. We're teaching them how to do that every quarter. Some of them, I just wonder how they make it in business, because it takes them like a year and a half for them to figure out how to add a quarterly priority on their own software. Amazing. But somebody hit the tangent button. Let's get back on track. So here we are. We're reviewing the past. Priorities, how many, this is the most important special projects where we're building a better organization for our future, right? So you're ultimately going to fill in the ratio of done to not done on this. But you're going to pull this up in the software and go through it. So I'm going to stop sharing this, and I'm going to share the software. So this is up on a screen in front of you, or if you're virtual, everybody's looking at this, and you're going to review the previous quarter. And here's a set of rocks for the Bloom Growth team. And everything's going to be marked either completed or off track, one of the two. In this example, this one's completed. So you'd go through, and everything that's on track has to be marked off track or completed. Okay, that's not done. Mostly things that are not marked completed are going to be not done. And so you go in here and say, and you're just having a conversation with people, sort them by owner, so that you can start with one person and you can work your way right down. And in this example, if you don't remember their names or you can't tell, just hover over their picture, and you're going to say, okay, Shard, if you need more room, and you'll become experts at the Bloom Growth software, you can, in version 3 here, collapse this agenda to the top, giving you more real estate to work with. But you go through and you hover over and okay, Charlene, so this one's complete. Is there anything I can add to the O&O list? And you would do it using this button right here. Oh, yeah. There's a next step to that, because the completed ones have next steps. Okay. What is it that I should add to the O&O? And you type here, and then save that one to the O&O list. Is there anything else around this one? that could be on our O&O list. Big opportunity or big obstacle for the next, quarter or two. Okay, great. We go on to the next one. This one's also completed. Congratulations. I do have them say, before I start going through granularly, I say, okay, Charlene, you had 5. And are these marked correctly? Are you 3 out of 5? Is that correct? Yes, I'm 3 out of 5. Okay, and what percentage of that? 60%. Okay, great. And I'm writing that down, usually in my remarkable, because I'm going to help them calculate total, percentage, ratio and percentage that they can all write down. Okay, so here's 3 out of 5. Great. Okay, let's go through them one at a time and add some stuff to the O&O list. New Bloom growth coaches, this one, this one, this one. Is there going to be a next step? No, there's nothing for the O&O list on that. Are you going to take a rock similar to this next quarter? I don't think so. I think this is going to become part of my regular job. It's not going to be part of a quarterly priority. Software training video for coaches. Yeah, there's going to, it didn't get done and there are some obstacles. And so you're going to use this button and you say obstacle. You spell it right and add that to the list. And so you're going right through. Again, you're trying to build the most robust O&O list you can. So you're trying to add something for almost every quarterly priority, but it'll be like half of them that you have something to add to the O&O list. Okay, we're on to Isaiah. This is Isaiah. Something Isaiah of your 2. Yep. Are they marked correctly?
1 out of 2. 1 out of 2 for
1 out of 2.
50%.
It is. And then again, no shaming here. I don't say, oh, you remember the expectation is 80% or something. Don't be that coach, please. Just have it be matter of fact. Isaiah, great. What can I add to the O&O list on yours here on this first one?
Yeah, so the first one, we decided not to do that because of capacity. But the next one, we actually have a next step in that one. And the next step is this. And the reason why I say this like this, Todd, is because my clients actually require coaching on this. And you say, okay, you actually did this, you guys, you completed this quarterly priority. What's the next step of implementation? Okay, you've got this all documented. Now you need to train your team members, or we need to measure the results, and just coach them in that and thinking through. And then they say, oh, yeah, we should do that. Okay, that is what we want to add to the O&O list.
Yeah. I don't know what percentage it is. I would guess like a third of the quarterly priorities have a next step. Like there'll be another quarterly priority the next quarter to finish the project. Is that a good guess? A third?
Yes.
Isaiah? You can offer a different, percentage.
It's a lot. It's a high amount. I don't have an actual percentage, but these have next steps to them, and the client needs your coaching to help them be thinking deeply about each one of them. And remember that these were the most important activities or special projects that this team set the previous quarter. So it is important to spend the time on these to gather the next step. A lot of thinking and thought and energy went into the creation of these.
Yeah. And of course, this team's been looking at them every week. As a coach, you'll barely remember them because it was 90 days ago and you saw your other 15 clients in the interim. So you can go glance at them before the session if you want, but I usually don't. I remember some of it, but it's not important that you remember what their quarterly priorities are. They know. They've been looking at them every week together, working to remove obstacles or leverage opportunities within them. And so keep on prompting, like Isaiah's saying. I'll say things like, well, what is the biggest opportunity you came across here? Can I add that to the O&O list? And I don't know if there's a real typical number of quarterly priorities for a typical size team would be 20. So let's say that there's 15 to 20 things here. I expect that you'd add at least 10 meaningful things to the O&O list by reviewing the previous quarterly priorities. At least 10. Sometimes you'll add like 15, almost 1 for 1. Okay, and then we would go on to Sheila. And we say like, wow, Sheila, you had a lot. How many did you have here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Oh my goodness. And these bottom 4, Sheila, are these done or not done? I'll give you a done on that. Move my thumbnails out of the way so I can see what I'm doing.
Not done on the second one up there, Todd.
There you go. We'll call that not done. We'll call this one completed. this one not done? Okay, great. There we have them. And it's really common that a few leadership team members wouldn't have these adjusted. This one for sure is going to be done. Whoops. 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 Back to my sharing. Clicking around, messing stuff up.
Yep. And then once you've gone through all of them, then we do the total amount of completed in the percentage.
Yeah. So I would go through every one of Sheila's here and say, what can I add to the list? Sometimes there'll be a to-do that they say, it's actually, that doesn't need to be on the O&O list, but can you give me a to-do? And that's why that's here. And sometimes then I even pop on over to the O&O list of right here in the software, and I'd sort this rather than by owner, I'd sort it by newest. And I'd say like, okay, here's the ones that we just added, and it'll be the top 10 on here that you just added. And you'll notice that it pulled over the long-term, and here's the long-term ones that are on the list from before. Okay. So, and then like, okay, let's go back. So we're reviewing the previous quarter still. I'm going to stop my share on the screen and we're going to go back to the client packet. And because I want them to be filling this stuff in, right? So, okay, up here at the top, we'd say, okay, out of those quarterly priorities, you had 20 of them, you got 15 of them done at 75%. That's a pretty damn nice job, everybody in the room. Thanks for all your hard work and helping each other on that all quarter long. And I'll bet you the 25% that didn't get done, made a lot of progress. I mean, this is a really good outcome. And I'm praising the team. I'm finding positives. Remember, doing the Bloom growth system and using you as a coach is meant to be a fun, affirming thing. And half that room is words of affirmation for their love language. So please be telling them how good they did, and holy cow. And anybody that gets 100% done when we're going through there, I always do some visual celebration. Okay, snap or clap, for somebody that got 100% of their quarterly priorities done. Just be celebrating, having fun, moving fast, building the O&O list. That's what you're doing there. Okay, the finance and the numbers. These are the most important 3 to 4 numbers-based outcomes. They're indicator that we ran our organization well this quarter. And these are the same ones that are above the quarterly priorities on the plan and above the annual goals. I'm going to get back into the recording mode. You guys ready?
Yep.
Yep. Are you all done eating?
No, I'm done enough.
Okay. Well, I mean, didn't mean for the day, but for recording.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So we're still reviewing the previous quarter. We've just captured a bunch of O&Os. You've looked at them on the list. You've done that within the Bloom software, and now you're going to come to the KPIs. These are those 3 to 4 numbers that you created together on day 30, and they set goals for them every quarter with you in the room. Sometimes the finance professional takes a to-do to put them in over the next week, but either way, they get set around your quarterly offsite with your client. And this is, we're going to say, okay, so what are those 3 or 4 key things? What was the goal for the quarter? What was the actual and the percentage of goal? Even with a professional finance person in the room, these things are often unprepared. Don't be surprised if they're a little disorganized around this. Don't shame them for it. And it doesn't have to be exact. We're not looking to take this thing out like 4 points past the decimal point or anything. I just need approximately. What was the goal? Approximately what was your actual? Okay, what percentage of goal is that? If you have somebody that's not very engaged, invite that person to be your calculator. All right. Fred, can you take out your phone and go to the calculator app and help us with calculating the percentage here? I always grab the person that seems least engaged if I'm going to ask somebody to help me with the calculator. Often, if somebody's not very valuable in the conversation, I also ask them to to go ahead and do it. Because I'm like, well, at least I'm not losing a critical thinker. Don't say this to your client, of course, but I'm choosing somebody that's less engaged or less valuable to help me with that. Okay, whenever the percentage of goal is less than 90% or over 110%, push to add an opportunity or an obstacle to the list. That's what there is. If it's within 10% up or down of the goal they set for the quarter, often there's not an opportunity or an obstacle there. But if it's over 110% a goal, I'm like, what the heck happened? And how do we do more of that? Let's add that to the list right now. And if it's less than 90%, I say, what got in the way of hitting this number? It's just, I'm not judging. We just have to know. Maybe sometimes there's 2 or 3 things that got in the way. Spit them all out. I'll add them as separate obstacles or opportunities to the O&O list. And you go through each KPI, and things that are more than 10% low or 10% high, you push hard to get some on the O&O list.
Yeah.
Okay.
What's our biggest opportunity to get profit back on track, you guys? Okay, great. Let's add that to the O&O list.
Thank you. Then culture. I say, everybody, on a piece of paper in front of you, write down an adjective or an emotion that best describes the current state of our culture. One word. One word is my preference. Go ahead, write it down. Just think about the culture collectively, not simply your team, the whole organization. Okay, great. Go ahead, Olivia, what if you don't mind starting? I'm often just picking people to start around the room that haven't started yet, trying to share the love. I'm not always starting on my left. Okay, start with somebody and then we go around to the left from there. And I jot down all those words, and they're 80% good words, but 20% of them are 2 words that are a little concerning. And I circle back to those after everybody gives me their words. And I say, can you say more about these 2 words? Well, it sounds like everything, a lot of things are going great around in culture, you guys. Congratulations. But you said concerning. Can you say something more about that? Yeah, because of this and that and that. Oh, interesting. Could we add that to the opportunity list? Something to talk about, or the obstacle list? Yeah, sure. Is there something else around this concerning that I can add to the list? Anybody else in the room want to pipe up about this? You know what she's talking about, right? Yeah, you all know. Okay. What else? And a little discussion happens for 2 minutes, 1 minute, 2 minutes about this, how somebody said concerning about the culture. And then the other person says some word that's also like a little red flag. They say something like shifting. And I say, shifting how? Say more. And they say more. And then anybody else notice some shifting going on? And you facilitate the little start of a conversation. Oh, interesting. Really interesting. It's really great that you bring it up. What is it that I can add to the O&O list around this one? And there's little discussion. Again, you try to facilitate this, keep it to 1 or 2 minutes. Do not propose what you think shifting means. Do not propose an answer to your own questions. You are not in their organization. You have your own past experience that you would draw from, but that's not going to be the answer they're going to give. Please be facilitating. Don't be participating. Okay.
Very good. The other thing, Todd, that I've seen you do here also, and that I like to do with my clients, this is not always negative. Some of our clients are really moving in the right direction with their people, their company, their growth, their culture, their right people, right seats, and they have a lot of positive things to say here. And they say things like energetic, exciting, fun, and I would just take a moment to tie some of those together and then celebrate the culture that they're experiencing and have created over the journey, especially with working with you, because we make a huge impact on this as coaching them and leading them.
Yeah. Thanks, Isaiah, for saying that. So it's an opportunity to praise the team. Again, like I said, about 80% of these culture words will be positive words. It'll be very easy to pick it out. And if you're at the beginning of a journey with a client and there's as much negative as, if it's only like 50% positive, just know as you go through this bloom growth journey with them, this will end up being 80 or 90% positive words that come out every quarter. You'll notice the shift. Okay, moving on. And then you do the trust commitments at the bottom. You remember, this is from your setup days. And you have to have this written down because your leaders won't remember it. Do everybody remember what their trust commitment was? And everybody's like, oh, damn it. No. And I say, it's okay. I've got it right here. And they appreciate that from you as the coach. And so I say, well, Sam, yours is this. And Fred, yours is this. And Olivia, yours is this. And they write it in there. And then you go around the room, they say it. And everybody in the room, I say, okay, everybody, get your thumb up. And whether it's on screen or in person, I say you can give them some degree of like no change. You've come backwards, which is rare. People don't usually say they've come backwards, but no change. The most common answer is like 45 degrees. And then everybody that's not a solid thumbs up gives a piece of feedback. And so I say, great, okay. Well, look like the whole room has yet about 45 degrees, some improvement. And so we're going to go around the room and very concisely, each person look Fred in the eye and say what it is that your request of him or some information you could share with him about how he could do this better. And it's really meaningful. And leaders often come away saying, God, I never get that kind of feedback. And they don't feel judged. You keep this, you facilitate this, you keep it positive. It's all for the greater good of the business that we're giving this kind of feedback to each other. And you'll have like one or two people at the end of this whole day will say that was their favorite part. One or two of them. If you facilitate this and you get them some meaningful information out.
And the way that, Todd, that you facilitate this is phenomenal. So we tee this up. All right, we're not going to get defensive. We're not going to make excuses. This is their truth. Take this as a gift. Make gentle eye contact, and everybody give Fred the meaningful feedback that you have in a loving way. And then Fred, say thank you after you get it. And another way that I can phrase it too, if somebody's struggling and they gave a 45-degree angle, and Todd, I learned this from you like 6 years ago, it's, okay, Sally, what could Fred do this quarter in order for you to give him a thumbs up next time we meet together in our check-in? It's another way to phrase it to get people thinking about moving in the right direction, to get a full thumbs up on the trust commitment that they made.
Yes, thank you, Isaiah, that's valuable. Okay, and if we go around with that trust commitment, you're going to go back and have people check off this review the previous quarter. I haven't been talking much about breaks so far, but your participants will need to take a break if you're virtual about every 75 minutes, and if you're in person about every 90 minutes. I don't know why it's shorter virtually, but it is. And so you're, as a facilitator, just going to be paying attention to that. See if you can get this far in your day, and the first 90 minutes would be fabulous, right? Where you've gone through the journey, the agenda, and the outcomes. You've reviewed the previous quarter. You've added at this point probably 15 to 20 meaningful things to the O&O list. And this really kicks off the day. And now you've got the past in the past, and you're just kind of like, it's a sweet mark of the day. Fabulous. Let's all take about 7 to 10 minutes, get some caffeine and water, and use the bathroom. We'll get back here and we're going to do the check-in. One of my favorite parts of the day. All right, everybody good? Let's go. And then you can set a timer if you want, or you can just wing the breaks. You just have to make sure you finish the state powerfully and on time. So do what you need to do as a facilitator that way.
I like to give exact start times. Okay, it's 1:11 right now. We're taking 9 minutes, so we're all coming back at 1:20. Perfect. Okay.
If you make it an odd time, they're more likely to come back. If you say, let's take 10 minutes and come back at 21 minutes past the hour, they're more likely to come back on time, which is really weird, but true.
Yeah, and in
So,
person, I always have to coach people. All right, you guys, we're starting in 2 minutes. Let's start moving towards the conference room again.
yeah. Also, do not be doing your own stuff on these breaks. There's work for you to do on the breaks. Well, often I'm filling my coffee too or using the bathroom. But there's work to do. I'm talking to one or two of the team members during the break. I meet them at the coffee machine and I say, well, what about that quarterly priority, but we didn't put something on the O&O list. It seemed like that could be on the O&O list. Yeah, maybe you're right. Maybe you're right. And we come back from the break and I say, hey, I talked to Olivia at the break and we're going to add this one to the O&O list also. So you're just working it. You are not taking a break yourself. You are not turning your phone on. You're not checking. You're not glancing at your text message. I mean, unless you got a kid in the hospital or something, or your wife's about to go into labor, you are not turning on your phone. You are not glancing at your email or text messages. This is not what you're doing during these breaks. You are working, helping herd these cats, have this day turn out great. Okay. I very specifically put a trough sink in my session room in Chicago. So two people washed hands next to each other in the men's bathroom. The women's bathroom also had a double sink. There's plenty of times when I'm in there washing my hands after doing my business on a break and saying to the leadership team member next to me something meaningful about the conversation we just had. That's what you're doing on breaks. Okay. We come back from the break. Great. And I say, like, if you turned on your phone, please get it back into airplane and silent mode, and please remove it from the table in front of us. And let's dive right into this. First thing we're going to do is we're going to go through and celebrate the wins. And it's those top 6 positive things that are going on the check-in sheet. If you've got a larger team, or you're running a little bit behind on your planned agenda timing, then use a timer. And I use the timer on my phone, and I put 3 minutes on it. I pass it around for the celebrating the wins. It's pretty easy to get it all done in 3 minutes, but you'll have like 2 really verbose people, and that it'll be important that you've set a timer. If you've got a small team of 3 or 4 people and you're fine on time, you probably don't need to run a timer. You're going to make the call as a facilitator. All that you share about yourself during this are the top 2 things. In the last 90 days, what's your number 1 most meaningful personal best in your life and your feelings about it? And in the last 90 days, your number 1 most meaningful professional best and your feelings about it. I do some deep thinking about my answers to these 2 questions once a quarter, and then I share the same 2 things about myself in every quarterly session I have with a client. So you don't have to recreate it 12 different unique times for the 12 sessions you have. But I do spend energy thinking about what's really meaningful and where I can be vulnerable and I can set an example. I don't go first on this. Sometimes I will go in the order I am around the table if we're going around the table. Often I will put myself last. I'll let the whole team go and then I'll share my 2 things. I also make sure to set my timer, and if everybody else is getting 3 minutes for all of that, I would give myself 2 minutes, less than 60 seconds to share each answer. But I do really go vulnerable and real because this is how I'm building a relationship with the team. Okay. So set the timer, they go around. I ask them on the people shout outs, the very last thing where it says, give a shout out to 1 to 3 people in your organization and say why. After the first person goes, I remind the team, say, please be committing these names to memory. And as an abundant-minded leader, my request is that you give some praise to somebody in your organization whose name comes up today. So give a shout out to 1 to 3 people in the organization and say why. And what happens is half the leadership team members I coach end up writing down all these names. Often an HR person is writing down all the names. They become part of the all hands meeting sometimes, some shout outs. But, give them examples of how to give a shout out. The other thing that I set up as rules on this that you'll have to coach people is that we are not shouting out people that are in the room or on this team. They will make this mistake the first couple times you're with them. But, just as a reminder, we're going to assume everybody in this room is really awesome, and we're not going to shout each other out. So mostly what I want from this in an organization where every person in the room has a department that reports to them is I want you to highlight the 1 to 3 people that are the up and comers in your department, the rising stars, so that this leadership team knows who the 1 to 3 rock stars are in your realm of the business. And if you're the ops leader and you have 80 people underneath you, please share with me the 3 or 4 people out of 80 that are the most amazing 3 or 4 people that are going to be fit for promotion in the next 6 months. Those are the names I want. That's what the leadership team can really benefit by knowing. We need to know who all the rising stars are across this firm. And you could shout out a rising star in another department. You could say like, oh my goodness, Andrea, that new person on your team has been so helpful on my team. What's the person's name again? Yes, that's her. Oh my goodness. I couldn't even remember her name, but I have to tell you, she looks like the best hire we've made in the last 6 months. Congratulations. So it can be like that too. Okay. So we all go around and say all that good stuff. You don't add hardly anything to the O&O list during this. It's just really great listening. Don't be multitasking as a coach. Just really soak it up. You want to hear all the things that they're winning at. Then we go on to building the O&O list. And you'll start again, usually the same person you started at with the good news. You're not going to participate in this, of course, this round. And you're going to work to add 1 or 2 things to the O&O list for each one of these categories. And so the real typical leadership team member, you will add 10 things to the O&O list. Sometimes a leader will add 15 things to the O&O list. But at the very least, each leader that's filled this out meaningfully, you will add 6 to 7 issues to the O&O list. At the very least, if you can't extract 6 to 7 obstacles or opportunities from a leader sharing on this, I would say they're mailing it in. They're not giving great answers. The only other time is if it's like an 8-person leadership team and they're the 8th person to share, there may already, all of their answers may be on there. But instead of just having them say, oh, most of my stuff's already on the board and not have them share, I have them go through in order and say, like, this is what I put down for organization wide. And this is what I put on, but that's already up there because Fred had said that one. And then within my department or accountabilities, I had these 2 things. But, Olivia already said the one and Sam said the other, but that's those 2 things I had. And so I want them to go through it, even if people have already said it. And I want them to prove that they gave thoughtful, prepared answers. And I want them to source where the dupes are on the list. We are often at this point sharing the list, like Isaiah had said, even if you're in person, he's using the software for this. And of course, I'm doing most of my sessions virtually, and I'm in the software for this. So you're going to be down here at the O&O list. And as you add things, you're probably the scribe. As you add things, they will be showing up at the top. So that's what you're doing when you're doing this. You can see where this add things just showed up down here. And so this list is growing and growing and growing and growing while you share the bottom part of this check-in. And it's common to add 50 to 75 things to this list while you're going through this part of the check-in. It's robust, capture everything, and dig down as a coach. Say like, yeah, but what's the real issue? Or isn't there 2 issues here? You have to be critically thinking and challenging and proposing and drawing things out of them to get this list built in a robust way. You're like, this is the thing that we're going to use for prioritizing all of our quarterly priorities. This is the list we're picking from. We need to have everything here. What are you going to say, Isaiah?
Oh, there's a lot of coaching going on during this time, you guys and gals that are watching this. Sometimes clients or leadership team members will say something and they have not figured out how to articulate it. And they're just and you have to grab that. And Sally, this is what I'm hearing you say, is this, and you repeat it back, research a new CRM and implement. Is that what you're saying, that our CRM is not working right now? Oh yeah, Isaiah, great. That is exactly what I'm saying. Okay. And then I also heard this. Is this another opportunity with what you were saying? And no, I was just rambling on. That's actually, we've already, done that. Okay, great. Thank you. Keep going. I've got that captured. And that's the articulation here. And then people will say, oh, I didn't have any people that fit. I didn't have an answer for that one. And then you're coaching them and you're drawing these things out and building this list with them. And a lot of times they require this level of facilitation and coaching to help them.
Almost every time. I mean, and until you get a client that's really in the groove and transparent and vulnerable, and just, you're looking for a verbal vomit here from the whole team. Give me more, give me more, give me more. And some leaders will just poo-poo away their answers, and you have to draw the obstacle or the opportunity out of them. This is what Isaiah is saying, with every single answer on the check-in sheet. God, and it gets really granular, doesn't it, Isaiah? I mean, that's just like, yeah, I don't have much new, and they try to skip or pass or not say this stuff. I'm like, well, you do have things written down in the blanks, right? And if we're in person, I'm like walking around and looking, I'm like, you have the whole sheet filled out. They're like, yeah, but I'm like, oh, no, I don't know. Let's go ahead and add something to this list for everything you have written down here. What'd you say for the top one? Okay, team, what is the biggest obstacle or opportunity with that thing? And the team will say what it is. And I just like, get engaged, get it going, draw it out of them. You have to build this list. You have to find 50 things to add to this during the build the issues list part of the check-in.
The other thing that we do also every single time when we start this on the check-in sheet, and I remind people constantly, it starts out when we're sharing the wins, but we remind people to be actively listening, fully present to their teammates. We're not reading our answers and thinking about what we're going to say. We're making eye contact. And again, we're telling the team, talk to your team. I appreciate that you want to speak directly with me, but we're sharing this information with our teammates.
Yes.
And when we get to the building the O&O component of this, we're coaching each of the leadership team members and basically telling them it's their responsibility to fully understand every single item that we have added to this list. As a leader in the business, they are in the know and strategically thinking about all of the different areas of the business, not just their department. We're all leveling up as a team and understanding fully the opportunities and the obstacles throughout all the different areas of the business. And we're telling them this. We're saying things like this. And that forces them or gets them into this active listening mode of, oh, I need to understand what Tom is saying. I can't just zone out now as he's sharing his answers. I need to fully understand. And I'm telling the team, hey, if you don't understand what Sally's talking about, say something. And sometimes I'll call on people and I said, Fred, did you fully get what Sally meant by that? And Fred's like, I have no idea. Well, then Fred, say something, like, ask a question. We need to be fully engaged here, you guys, in understanding what's going on in our business.
That's so good, Isaiah. All that. Say all of that. I say all of that and more. I say things like, you have to memorize every one of these things we're putting on the list, because load it into your short-term memory, put it into your RAM if they're a tech-savvy business. Or leaders. I also, when I'm adding things to the list, I say I'm looking for the headline. Give me the 1 to 3 word headline. I don't need the whole story. And so they often start off telling you the story. And I say, whoa, 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 Fred, what's the 1 to 3 word headline or the thesis phrase that I can start? Because I want to be typing while they're telling the whole rest of the story. It's not meant to be cryptic for you as a coach to try to figure out what the headline is and their rambling 30 to 45-second explanation of it. Insist that they start with the 1 to 3 word headline and get you typing. Get me typing. Come on, start with the headline. And you'll have to remind them like 8 or 10 times each time you do this. 8 or 10 reminders, like they forget about every 4 minutes as you're going through this exercise. Some of the leaders will be just terrible at doing this, and you'll have to remind that same leader like 4 times. Sally, I really need you to start with the 1 to 3 word headline so I can be typing. And then tell the team what you mean by it. Team, you must be memorizing these headlines and what it actually means as we're going through this. It's an intense type of listening. That's what I need from everybody here, because we're going right into setting the quarterly priorities after this. This is why the agenda is structured this way. Please be loading all this up in your short-term memory. Be as intently present as you know how right now. This is the most important part of the day.
The other thing that I love to do too, Todd, can you go back to the check-in sheet? There, sometimes I think leaders just, for some of these answers, especially the one around what are the 2 things that we could do to increase profit or grow this business, I sometimes get answers where the client or the leadership team member says something like, well, we need more leads. And I'm just like, well, duh, we need more leads. And I don't say that, but I'll ask them, well, what's your best idea of how we can get more leads? And then, and coaching it out of them. Because again, we're building a database, if you will, of what we're going to choose from or select our quarterly priorities. So we want to draw out their ideas that they have. What is our best idea that we have of getting more leads? Or we're going to ramp up this, or we're going to do that, or we're going to do this new networking, or we're going to do whatever that might be. I try to get them to have answers that we can do something with.
Yeah. Yes. On this also, this elephant in the room, you get leaders that try to skip this in the first 6 to 9 months of your engagement, got to call them out on it. There are elephants in the room at the beginning of this journey. I just say, what's the thing you're least comfortable bringing up in front of this team? Push people to have an answer. The other one that I have to push people to have an answer for is this people one here. What's the most impactful people move, a hire, a fire, or a role transition we could make if we had the courage and our resources? Give me something meaty and meaningful here. The most impactful people move. And you have to draw out answers. Do not let leaders just skip and forego an answer or give you some general garbage like Isaiah just talked about. You have to inquire and draw out specifics and engage the whole team in this. This is meant to be an energizing, fun part of the day, but you have to facilitate your tail off to get everybody fully participating, fully sharing. A lot of people in the first 6 to 9 months of this journey are just looking for ways to hide within your meeting. You need to make it clear that with you in the room as a coach and a facilitator, there is no place to hide. You have to show up like a strategic leader here.
Yes. Well, the one thing that I do also that I have been doing that's been proven quite magical in my sales process, you guys, is this, the question on the left here, there in the Celebrate the Wins, the Bloom growth system, what's the best part so far? When each leadership team member is sharing their answer, this is my time as a coach, a leadership team growth coach, to jot down testimonials from each of the leadership team members. They're saying things here that are just incredible about the transformation that's happened, the level of communication that's increased, how their department team is humming like never before after they rolled out the Bloom Weekly to that team. And they're saying things here that are just magical. And I've got my digital notebook, and I'm writing down word for word what they're saying. And I'm making a note that Justin shared this, Sally said this. And if I need a little bit more clarity or color, I'll ask them throughout the day, hey, what did you mean by that? And then I've got this in my arsenal. And then when I'm doing a discovery call or a 90-minute meeting with a new prospect, I'm sharing things like, hey, my client who's 180 days into this journey, these are the things that they're saying. This is the value that they're getting or the impact that this system is having. And I'm bringing that back in. So I want to encourage you, this is a great time for you to grab testimonials from your clients in a way that's just magical and so natural as they're sharing about the best things that are going on with the system.
Beautiful, beautiful. One of the things that I do with leadership team members, and I think it's an important part of them showing up in the highest value way they can, is I talk about how they're going to show up as a strategic leader, not a tactical leader. A strategic leader for the greater good of the whole business across all departments. You are not showing up as a leader of your department or in your silo. Quite the opposite. Please show up here and be willing to take risks and have courage to say uncomfortable things. As long as your head and your heart is aligned with the greater good of the organization, you cannot get in trouble for taking risks or having courage or saying uncomfortable things. And that's really what is applauded here as a strategic leader and will help us move this forward. So please, now if your head and your heart is aligned with your department or your own personal self-interest, then saying risky stuff is risky. So get your head and your heart aligned, and I'm often doing this head-heart gesture. I'm going to get your head and your heart aligned with the greater good of the whole organization, and you cannot get in trouble for being courageous and saying risky things for the greater good. That's how I request that all of you show up today, all day, strategic leader working on the business. Tomorrow, you can go back to leading your department and being tactical and working in the business. But today is a strategic day where we're figuring out how to align all of our energy organization-wide for the next 90 days. And I can't have this be one or two voices. We won't get the best outcome. It has to be a collective of everybody here. And I need everybody to hear to feel heard too, so that you can commit to the decisions we make today. Okay? So everybody in for the greater good, taking risks, being a strategic leader for almost like a board of advisors for this business, rather than a collection of department leaders. That's the way to think about this. So you turn to this page in the client packet. You're gonna get clear on the date. It's almost always 12 to 14 weeks in the future. You want to make these quarters really consistent. You've already got the whole year scheduled, ideally. So you'd be like, this is our date of our next session. So you're going to look through the O&O list that we've just spent all morning building, use your common sense and write down the top 5 most important things for our entire organization to accomplish 13 weeks from now. Always prioritize by the most important, never by the interesting, urgent, or easy. That's a pretty normal way to go about this. We're not doing normal work here or average work. Okay. On top of the O&O list and your common sense, let's take a quick look at our annual goals and the previous, and we already added the things from the previous quarterly priorities. Remember, we added all those to the O&O list, but we haven't looked at the annual goals. And that's the last thing we're going to look at before we start doing this together. And so you'll find that over on the plan. And so you would go back into the Bloom software, find their plan where you have their annual goals written. And you'll be like, of course, these quarterly priorities are going to move all these annual goals forward. And so sometimes I'm even like, okay, who's taken the quarterly priority to move this annual goal forward? Well, Fred says, I'm going to take that one. Who's taken the quarterly priority to move this annual goal forward? I'm going to write one on that. Okay, great. Who's taking one on this one that, and there's 5 annual goals, and then You have 5 people volunteer for who's going to write the quarterly priority for that. Okay. So everybody's coming up with the top 5. And so you've got 6 people in the room. It's going to give you 30 answers here is what you're doing. Usually takes them about 14 minutes. You're going to set a timer on your phone for like 12 minutes. And then you're going to pop around the room. On top of identifying what the top 5 things are, you then want them to write them in a specific and measurable way. The acronym of SMART goals, right? Specific, measurable, actionable, realistic, and time bound. So you're going to want to write them. So I always think of this as like 3 phases of it. The first phase is I look at the annual goals and I look at the O&O list and I use my common sense. And I make a list. I go through the O&O list fast and I go through the annual goals and I use my common sense. And I write down a list of like 9 to 12 things that could be our top priorities for the quarter. And then once I have the 9 to 12 things on a list, I number them by the top 5, by the priorities, by most important again. And I number them 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then next to each one of those 5, I write down the specific measurable outcome by the date on top. And I say all this stuff I'm saying right now, I say to the team before I start the timer ticking. All that stuff I just said about the 3 phases of it, the brainstorm list of 9 to 12, that then number the top 5 and then make them specifically a measurable outcome by the date. 13 weeks from now is my instructions. I'm repeating the instructions usually twice as we go through this. I'm really getting them in the room, their head all in the room. Yet I'm excited about what we're about to do. But then there's a point where I've been through the instructions twice. Everybody knows how to get to the O&O list. It's either printed off in front of them or everybody's laptop is open now. We're not dilly-dallying with other things. They've muted all their notifications. Slack is closed, their email and their calendar all closed. You've got people focused and ready, and you've given the instructions twice. You've gone through the annual goals. You've described how it works in your brain. My brain is that list of 9 to 12, pick the top 5 and then make them specific, measurable. The outcome though, 14 minutes from now, is that each one of you in the room working individually, this is not collaborative work. I want 6 specific individual answers. So this is silence. I want everybody in the room to have their top 5 most important special projects, quarterly priorities for the organization. Don't be duplicitous with the KPIs. We already have the KPIs for the quarter. And of course, we'll have to do the regular running of the business. This is not your regular job. That's articulated in the KPIs. This is not the regular running of the business. These are special projects where we're building a better business. They're strategic things. They are people things. They are process things. They are systems things, if that's different than process. So all of these words I'm saying, this is how I coach them to tee them up, to then begin the 14 minutes of silence. And the outcome is each individual is going to have their own answer for the top 5 most important things and the way that we should allocate energy towards some top 5 special projects this quarter, helping us build a better business for the future. Okay. And do not write them on the right-hand side. Do not fill in page 7. Do all of this work on page 6. And then we're going to put all of your answers together and we're going to prioritize together. And we are going to pick the most important ones that come out of all of your answers together. That's where we'll start collaborating on this. Okay. Isaiah, do you want to supplement my words with your words? How do you tee this up?
This was really great, Todd. Depending upon where the client's at in the journey, I don't say this to all my clients, but for some of them, they still need to understand what we're doing, especially if it's like day 180 or we're still in the first or second quarter. So I'll say things like, okay, you guys, look at how this last quarter, we got 10 of these quarterly priorities or special projects complete, right? We updated this system, we did this. What was the impact of that? And somebody says, oh man, we don't have to deal with this anymore, or we solved this and it's gone away. And I'm like, yeah, that's right. So now think about how every single quarter we get 10 to 20 of these special projects complete. We do that 4 times a year. Now we're getting 40 to 80 of these things complete. And we do that for 3 years. And look at how this is how we hit our big, hairy, audacious goal, you guys, by running in this system quarter after quarter. We're building a better business by getting these quarterly priorities complete. That's the methodology of this. And then the weekly meeting keeps us on track, the glue, the reminders in order to get these things complete and move them across the finish line. So with that in mind, what are the most important things that we want to accomplish in building a better business in the next 90 days? Marching towards our annual goals, solving some of these problems, obstacles in a permanent and spiraling way. Jot down your answers on your sheet. Make them as specific as possible. And what I mean by that is, what does the end result look like? We're going to meet together again on June 29th. So what does done look like, or what is the end result, or what's the outcome that we can measure from now till June 29th? Okay, everybody ready? Any questions? All right, 10 minutes of silence. We're doing this individually. Jot down your answers, and then we'll come and share together.
Perfect. Perfect. And so then after your 14 minutes is up, you go around the room. You have one person read you their 5 things, and you write them down. If you're in person, you write these down on a flip chart or a whiteboard. If you're within the software, you pull up a note or a dialogue box, and you can jot them down in there. When you get to the second person, I always facilitate and ask them to give me their duplicates in spirit first. These are their duplicates in spirit of the first person's top 5. And there'll be 2 or 3 of them that are duplicates. And then I say, okay, what are your 2 new ones? And I jot those on the bottom of the list. I go to the third person. I say, start with your duplicates, and I'll draw a little dot next to those. So now, and they'll have 3 of their 5 that are duplicates now, and then I add their 2 new ones. The fourth person will have 4 of their 5 will be duplicates. And so you just put dots next to the 4 of them. Sometimes they have a little different outcome. They say, but I had a different measurable way on it. I say, great, give me that. And I append it a little bit, / and I write the little different outcome they have. And then what's your one new one? And then by the time you get to the 5th or 6th person in the room, they're all duplicates in a team that's aligned. Sometimes you'll have 1 or 2 fresh ones on one of those leaders, but you're hoping for a lot of alignment, and you're hoping for a lot of duplication. You're hoping if you have a 6-person team, everybody gives you 5 answers for a total of 30 potential answers, that you end up with a list that's no longer than like 13, and that the other 17 are duplicates. That would show a team that has a lot of alignment. And I tell teams when I'm teeing this up, hey, I'm hoping that you all give me the same answers. I'm hoping everybody says the same 5 things. That would be such a sweet indicator of alignment, you guys. So,
and when they don't, sometimes I'll interject comments like, boy, do you guys really need me as a coach? Look at how misaligned you are in your priorities. Right. And they'll laugh.
Only if that works for your personality. Do the Isaiah.
Yeah.
So then you get that list, and you say, okay, let's pick usually there's 3 on there that pop out of the list. This is on other videos, right? Day 1 and day 90, every time we're setting rocks, it's the same stuff. So you can rewatch the rock setting over there also.
Quarterly priorities.
What you do, quarterly priorities, thank you. And what you do is you circle the top 3. There's usually 3 that is lots of consensus, like nearly everybody said these top 3, and they have dots next to them like crazy. And so I like, okay, 1, 2, 3. And then I go through the rest of the list. Let's say there's 17 things there. And I start at the first one that we didn't already pick. And I say, is this the top 7 most important thing for the whole organization for the whole quarter? Yes or no? And they'd say, no. Okay, is this one a top 7 thing for the whole organization for the whole quarter? Yes or no? Yeah, I think it is. Somebody pipes up. Okay, that's number 4. And you keep on working down the list. The things that don't get picked in this top 7 could become individual quarterly priorities, but what we're doing right now are the ones that are across the whole organization, called the company quarterly priorities. Okay, so you go through that process, you pick the top 5 to 7, You then collectively, you make them specific and measurable as you type them into Bloom, the software. And while you're doing that on the screen, you're also training them how to put in their own quarterly priorities, because what's coming next is you're going to turn them loose on individual priorities. As you type them into Bloom, if you want them to be engaged, that's what page 7 in this client packet is for. You could have them writing them down to show engagement as an adult learner. And then little space to the right is who's accountable for each one of those. But you don't have to have them fill it in here if you're doing it up in the software at the same time on the screen. So you go through that, you write them together, you are teaching them every quarter how to write a specific measurable goal. You will have to do half of the work in making these specific and measurable. Trust me, leadership team members do not know how to write a goal in a specific measurable way. So you have to step in at least with half of these and insist on something that is more quantifiable or clear or agreed on or specific. So just expect that you're going to do a ton of work in helping them prioritize and choose, because they're going to pick some things that are their regular job. Like somebody's going to say, like, close 2 new clients. I'm like, isn't it one of your KPIs? And don't you have number of new client meetings every week in your Bloom Weekly? Yeah. So this is not a quarterly priority. That's your regular job, Fred. Please get out and sell some shit. Come on. What are the quarterly priorities here? This is where we're building a better business for the future. This is not the regular running of our existing business. Yes, you have to do that also. Okay, enough of my rant, but you get it. You can listen to the rants on day 1 and day 90 about rock setting. I mean, quarterly priority setting. So that's that. And then after we're done with that, you're going to have everybody turn back and you're going to be like, all right, sweet, check on the quarterly priorities. And then I'd go like, oh, we didn't clean up the O&O list yet. And then you pop over to the software and it said individual rocks, and you go through all the individual rocks and you have to help them make them specific and measurable together. And they won't have written their individual rocks specific and measurable enough. So you'll help them get all that. And then you make sure everything's on track over here. And then if the finance person's in the room, you want to go to the plan and write in the KPI goals for the quarter, assuming they have those with them. If not, you give the finance person a to-do to go add those over the next 7 days. And then after you've got this all cleaned, buttoned up, there's like 20 quarterly priorities on here for this team of 6, 2 to 4 per person. It's kind of the right number. And you've got the KPIs in there for the quarter. And then you're going to go over to this O&O list, and it has 80 things on here. Now you are going to sort by owner. Oh, it's already sorted by owner, but you'll go, if it's not, you'll double check that. And now you, as concisely as you can, you're going to go through each one and you try to delete 60 of these 80 things. Either delete them, you forward them to another department, move to the long-term list, or move to another meeting, take it to do and then delete it, or simply delete it by hitting the solve button. You're trying to do all of these things, anything but leave it in their Bloom Weekly for this team. You've already chosen your priorities for the quarter. You have to get all the other big potential projects on the parking lot, on the long-term list. You can't leave other big projects here. They will get in the way of you getting the most important ones done that you just chose. So really peer pressure them to clean this list up. And then you get this list down to 20 things or less. That's ideal. And then you're going to go into your team health exercise, whatever that might be. And then based on the check-in, you're going to have the things that are not working with the Bloom growth system. And you're going to go through and tune those up, which you should know what to do. And it's going to be different for every client. And then you're going to get to the O&O list, and you're going to pick of the ones that remain. You're going to pick the top 3, and then you're going to go ahead and you're going to watch them O&O like we mentioned earlier, and then you're going to give them feedback after they go through each one, or after you go through 3, on how they could have got to the root cause, had the discussion be more effective, made a more bold decision, and then They take a to-do and then they remove it from the list. And you're going to go through 3 to 9 of these, depending on how much time you have left. And ideally, you start the wrap-up process when you have about 15 minutes left, so you end early. Okay, that's the process. And in the wrap-up process, you do exactly like it says in the book. I'll share that again. The questions are there, and they're perfect. And so you're going to be here. That's your team help and your tools. And then you're going to come here. This is exactly the questions you ask for the wrap-up. As they're going around, they say things in this order too. Favorite, most valuable part, one thing we can do better. You write down all of the things that we could do better next quarter. It's how you open up the next quarterly session and say, hey, just as a reminder, these are the things we all said we could do better today when we were together last quarter. And then they give the meaningful compliment to the person on their left and they say thank you. And then that person goes ahead and does theirs. It goes all the way around the table, and I usually excuse myself from it. I say, don't do the compliment to me. So if Olivia's on my right, and Fred's on my left, I say, Olivia, you give Fred the compliment, okay? And then this is expected, and then you give your referral reminder. Just as a reminder, my business grows 100% through referral from happy clients like you guys. Please, I am looking for 3 more new clients. And any referrals you send my way, I will treat like gold. Please simply do an email introduction between myself and the owner of any business you know. And I will show up with bells on, willing to help, whether they decide to use me or do Bloom or not. Just please make an email introduction for me, with an owner of any business you know. I really appreciate it. You guys, I love our days together, and the amount of growth and progress that you're making is really inspiring. Stay the course. Come in next quarter with your KPIs met and 80% of these quarterly priorities complete. And this is what there is to do. Let yourself get distracted with other things this quarter. We just spent all day building a massive list of opportunities and obstacles, and then you prioritize. We spent 2.5 hours prioritizing and picking the projects. Please treat these as your most important things for the next 90 days and get 80% of them done. Heck yeah. Get your KPIs in the green on a weekly basis and come in at the end of the quarter hitting those numbers. This is how we're defining winning within your business, is getting 80% of these projects done every 90 days and hitting those numbers at the top. Okay, it's that simple. Please don't let other things get in the way and complicate your future. And then send me an email introduction to some friend of yours that owns a business. This is all you have to do this quarter, and we're going to call it winning. All right. And also, I really appreciate your business, you guys. This is great. This is great. All right. Be good. Isaiah, anything else you say at the end here?
There's times when I will participate in sharing my favorite and most valuable part. So before I ask for a referral, and I say exactly what Todd said at the end, but before I do that, I just recap a little bit and I say, you guys, my favorite part of the day was this, this, and this. I thought you did an amazing job at this, and I'm really excited and I love working with you as a coach. And I just want you to know that my business grows 100% through referrals from happy customers like you. Please send an email introduction to a business owner that you know. Tell them about me. I'd love to work with them. Thanks so much. And then, move into wrap. But that's the only thing that I do additionally as well. I work in my favorite, most valuable part into the beginning, and then I ask for the referral right after I share that and compliment them.
Yeah. I mean, that's a wrap.